Hello again, I am Blunty, and this is my hands-on story of the upcoming new console from Nintendo, the Wii U. Maybe you've heard about it. As a framing device, a quick timeline of my thoughts and expectations of the Wii U. When it was first revealed, I was all like, alright. Then some more details came out and some games were talked about, and I was all, yeah, okay, maybe, certainly seems interesting, but not exciting. Many of the games talked about were kind of shoveled retweaks of games that came out a year ago or more, and that wasn't particularly inspiring. And then they locked down the full launch window game lineup, and I broke down my thoughts on them in a recent video, but basically, I was all, you know what? There's a decent fistful of games in that bunch, probably enough to keep me interested in using the Wii U through its first few months. But still, I'm not getting that buzz of real anticipation yet. And then, finally, at last, I got to go hands-on and use the thing at the recent Games Expo here in Sydney. I noodled around with a wad of several different game types and gaming experiences, everything from Mario to Batman, and now I'm finally starting to get quite enthused for it. Now it's making sense. Now the idea of why I'd want to own a Wii U is cementing in my mind. In this video, I'm not going to go game by game with every game I tried. I'm sure I'll review at least a few of the launch games properly in a full and more meaningful way once I've got more significant game time with the full versions instead of brief experiences with Expo demos. But what I want to do here is pull a few of the games I played out as highlights of what the Wii U on the hardware side of things does. First up, I want to take a peek at a couple of games from Nintendo Land, which in the US, Europe, and here in Aussie Land will come packed in with the Wii U Deluxe set, but will also be sold at retail and as a digital download. It's got a dozen different minigame experiences all up, each obviously designed to show off the Wii U's unique abilities in various ways, and at the Expo I got to try just a few of them. My easy favourite was Camaros Ninja Castle. It's a superbly fun arcade-style target shooter in the same vein as the classic Point Blank, which I also loved to bits, but here, instead of a gun, you're flinging shuriken from the gamepad's touchscreen. And aside from being a very fun and quite addictive little game, which I went back to again and again and again for several rounds throughout the Expo, it also served as a way to demonstrate and test two core functions of the gamepad. Like the touchscreen, which I and countless other gamers out there have been concerned about as it uses the inferior resistive touchscreen technology instead of the modern and almost universally standard capacitive type found in pretty much every other modern touchscreen device on the planet. But my fears were put to rest. The touchscreen was actually very responsive and a light touch was absolutely sufficient. I was able to control very accurately the velocity of my spinning blades of ninja death with the speed of my swipes. But it's worth noting, being a resistive touchscreen, there is no multi-touch ability at all. The second feature this game of ninja destruction demoed really well was the motion sensing. The Wii U Gamepad doesn't use a sensor bar at the TV, or a camera, or any other type of external assistance for tracking relative or absolute motion. Instead, it's all built into the gamepad with the same types of multi-axis gyro motion sensor thingies you find in smartphones. And it works very well indeed. It's highly responsive. It felt much like using a light gun. Moving my crosshairs around the screen was easy. Picking my targets was accurate. And there was none of that kind of mushiness or weird jitteriness that you can sometimes get with this type of motion control. And as far as I could tell, it was utterly lag-free in any practical sense. Although thanks to the size and shape of the gamepad and the fact for this game you have to hold it sideways, it wasn't quite as comfortable or as natural feeling as a light gun is. It was initially a bit awkward feeling actually, but I adapted quickly and I was absorbed into the game in only moments, all but forgetting about the controller and simply enjoying the game, which is a very good sign. That's exactly what you want to happen. Donkey Kong's Crash Course is a simple maze-type game involving tilting the gamepad to guide a cart through a maze-like level with ramps and swinging doors and such. The game was okay, surprisingly tricky really, but it and other games like Batman Arkham Asylum and Zombie U did show off the lag-free wireless video feed of the controller very well. It really is effectively lag-free. I'm sure there's a few nanoseconds here or there, but the fact is, in-game, in-play, it works perfectly. I nor any other players I spoke to noticed even the slightest lag, or stutter, or frame drops, or any other such issues which could be a problem in this kind of remote feed of live game video information. Next up, the new Rayman game, which gave me a chance to go hands-on with the more traditional Wii U Pro Controller, and it felt great. It just might be the most comfortable controller I've ever used. I may even like it more than the Xbox 360's controller thanks to the more sensible, symmetrical analog stick layout. It's light, it feels well built, the analog sticks feel great and responsive, and while for me the D-pad could have been just a bit bigger, it certainly rested nicely under the thumb and had a good balance between being reactive and spongy. It's not mushy, but it's just pliant enough to help keep it comfortable over long play periods. Same story with the face buttons, they strike a good balance, but really what else can you expect from Nintendo? They've been doing gamepads for longer than anybody else. The shoulder buttons had a good feel too, well positioned and with a nice amount of smooth resistance and play. The layout feels natural, instinctive and comfortable, and the overall shape fit perfectly in my hand. The Rayman game itself is a must-play, it's sublime, and the co-op mode is great fun too. Wii U demo units should just be bleeding into retail stores right about now, or very soon, and hopefully Rayman is on board as a demo because you should absolutely give it a go. And I just want to take a moment to mention how great it is to finally see Nintendo games catch up to the high-def era. The games look gorgeous and crispy, and Nintendo's penchant for bright, happy, fun-time colours has never looked better. Back to the gamepad, it's surprisingly light. A fully working gamepad almost feels like it could be a dummy display unit with no bits inside it. Obviously these ones are tethered for security's sake at the Expo, but I made a point to ask, and apparently these units did represent the weight and feel of the final retail kits. On the one hand, this lack of mass almost makes it feel a bit cheap. I mean, the build felt great, very solid and rigid, the fit and finish were nice, all classic Nintendo stuff. It's just that lack of heft feels a bit weird at first. On the bright side, this is an obvious deliberate design choice because it also means it's not going to feel wearisome or heavy or put excess strain on your hands or wrists after using it for long play sessions, which is the most important thing, really. The screen looked good, crisp and bright with no motion blur or smearing that I could see. The colour gamut looked good and text was highly readable, so it should work quite well indeed, even when you're using it to play the full game on, when you're using that nifty Nintendo trick of freeing up the TV for another family member to watch their stuff on while you keep playing your game on the gamepad. The resolution is not HD, but it seemed as good or better than the majority of tablet screens out there right now. Overall, my impression of the Wii U was an extremely nice bit of hardware. The jury is still out on how well it'll fare over time with performance and attracting AAA titles once the other big boys release their next line of game console hardware, but for now, Nintendo has quite a head start over them. I've read estimates that the Wii U has about twice the grunt of the Xbox 360. What that means in the real world is anybody's guess, really. But in the end, it's worth remembering that the original Wii sold extremely well despite its comparative lack of power and being stuck in pathetic standard definition resolutions. And it had some absolutely terrific first-party titles. And it even forced Sony and Microsoft to scramble to play catch-up with motion control gaming once that caught on like fire. The original Wii did struggle to attract the big-name multi-platform games. Most people out there put the blame on this as mainly due to the use of non-standard controller as default, not its lesser grunt. But with the Wii U, Nintendo have learned their hard lessons well, because not only does the default gamepad have all the proper controls and buttons to eliminate the cross-compatibility control problem that the Wii had, but it offers even more ability built on top of that for devs to play with. And just to make sure all the bases are covered really well, the Wii U Pro Controller offers up the classic natural-feeling default controller for the more traditional games and gamers, and for multiplayer and for co-op play without having to invest in another full-on gamepad, which aren't exactly cheap. You can also use all your Wii remotes as controllers too. The Wii U will even accept your old sensor bar for the older school motion control and backward compatibility. So, I have a feeling the Wii U will do quite well on the market indeed, and I'm absolutely going to have one in my cave. There's no question of it. I'm absolutely sold on the Wii U. There is, and there will be, gaming experiences here that I simply don't want to pass by. So, as we crawl ever closer to release day, what do you guys think? Have your opinions changed on it? What are you anticipating? What are you frightened about? And has that buzz of anticipation started to burrow into your brains yet like it has mine? Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I'll catch you next time.
Hello, it's me, Mario, hee and you're watching Blunty 3000. And I'm Wario, and Blunty's in a rotten mood. Like me. Have a rotten day.